Salontrepreneur. This is the Form and Function Salon podcast, and this is pod episode 10, and I am your host, Benjamin J. And this week's episode is sponsored by those combs that have the little level in them so that you can tell when your comb is level, but your client is not. No, of course we're not sponsored by that. Those things are garbage. So anyway, welcome to our first double-digit episode, although I suppose I've been numbering all of them with 3 digits, being 001, 002. But this is 010, our 10th episode. And I want to say thank you for all the feedback. Thank you to those that have subscribed. It's awesome seeing those numbers grow and getting your feedback and just having ongoing conversations with salon owners. So you email me, ben@thehairloftltd.com. Love getting to chat with you and help you specifically with your business and not just in a general sense with the podcast. But this week's episode, we're going to be talking about numbers. And I know that numbers aren't necessarily the best thing to be talking about on an audio podcast, but I do have some supplemental guides that you can download on our website that I'll get to. But I want to tell you where the inspiration for this is coming from. Last week, I saw a post on one of the various salon owner, hairstylist Facebook groups that I'm on. I'm sure that you, like me, are on many of them. Hairstylist education forum or salon and spa business forum. I don't even know where I saw it. But it was a salon owner from California that was posting that there had been a law change in California. Her explanation was that the new law that went into effect was saying that stylists that work in a commission-based salon needed to be guaranteed double minimum wage per hour. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't own a salon in California. I'm in Chicago. It doesn't sound like a bad law to me, but I thought that it was interesting. So in her post, she says that means that in her salon, for a 2-hour service, they charge $100, and that she's going to now have to pay her stylist $42 an hour, which means that after the 2-hour service, she's only going to have $8 to be able to, pay for product and taxes and everything that the business, all the costs of the business. And I read it, and it didn't feel right to me. But I didn't comment. I just kind of let it go. And it was one of those things where it kept popping up in my newsfeed. I don't know if you have those as well. But just like over the course of 3 days, I had to have seen this post like 6 or 7 times. And so I kept reading it, and it didn't make any sense to me. So I started reading the comments. And, the comments essentially along the lines of how can they believe that salons are going to be able to survive having to pay that? And what is it even legal for the state to tell us what minimum wage is going to be? I thought that one was pretty funny because obviously, yes, that's what the state can do. And so I kept reading the comments, and eventually somewhere in the comments, I saw the original post of the original owner saying that in her area, the hourly rate was $10.50. And so once I saw that, I realized, her math was completely wrong. So she needs to guarantee double minimum wage. If minimum wage is $10.50, that means that she has to guarantee $21 an hour. If the stylist is doing a 2-hour service, that means that she's guaranteed $42, because 21 times 2 hours is $42, which means that the salon would have $58 left over, not the $8 that she originally had suggested. And so I commented that, and I didn't want to push it. I just said, is this correct? Because this is what I'm getting. She deleted the post. So maybe I was right. And look, we've all made mistakes on math problems. I'm not here to get upset or to say like, oh, can you believe that she was so wrong? I do think that in terms of presenting ourselves online, that if you're going to post numbers, just double check your math as many times as possible before you post. Be really, really sure. But where my real disappointment comes in? Is the 64 comments from other stylists and other owners that nobody was able to check that math. That everybody saw that and went, oh my gosh, the government, I can't believe that they're making us do that. Oh my gosh, this is why everybody goes to solo and rental salons. If even at that new law, if the new law is true, guaranteeing that rate for that service for 2 hours, you should be fine. That would end up being a 42% commission. I don't know, but that seems right in the ballpark of where most salons are and should be. So the point is that we're talking about basic numbers typically. We can deep dive on numbers, but understanding the basics of what it's going to take to run the business is really important. And obviously knowing what an employee's hourly wage is going to be is vital. And my problem is that if we can't trust, or if we don't have owners that can understand that part of the equation, how can they be in the best position to be able to take care of the more important stuff? Paying bills on time, balancing the budget, watching product and back bar usage. And that's the deeper stuff. The very basic level stuff is, how much should our team make? I'm currently listening to a book. I don't know if you have any audio books on your devices or in your library, or if you're a reader. I just find that I personally, when I read, I've never been a strong reader, so audiobooks are awesome for me. But the one that I'm listening to right now is called The E-Myth. And The E-Myth, it's a classic book about entrepreneurship. But what it does is it tries to segment the roles in a business, okay? As owners, we are leaders, we are visionaries, right? That's why we wanted to go out and we wanted to create a business. The next step within the business is a manager. A manager is a person that's going to get things done. They're going to take that vision and push the team in order to get there. And the team is comprised of our technicians. Our technicians are the people that are our service providers. They're the ones that are in it day to day, that are making everything happen. So one of the things that this book says, and I think that it's very true, because looking at our industry specifically, we tend to have a lot of people that are of a creative mind. Right? They're not in love with numbers, but they love hair. They love doing hair. And what people don't tend to realize, and this is the E-myth, is that people think, I'm a great hairstylist, I should open a salon. Or I'm a great chef, I should open a restaurant. And the truth of the matter is that when you shift that role, when you go from technician to entrepreneur, that your role changes. All of a sudden there's a lot more things that you didn't have to do before. You never had to think about bill pay other than your personal bill pay. You never had to think about hiring or recruiting because the owner just hired and recruited. You got to basically do the work that you loved doing because you loved doing hair, and you got to do it 5 days a week. But now that you own the business, you can't do it 5 days a week. You can only do it 4 days a week because one day is going to be spent on getting your marketing campaign together. And so that's kind of the E-myth. My belief is that business owners need to at least know the basics. It is okay to outsource some of the work in your business. Now, typically, numbers is the first thing that gets outsourced. And truth be told, we have an accountant for Hair Loft. He's great. He gets all of that stuff put together so that our taxes are done on time, and he can tell us, what our assets and liabilities and the whole 9 yards when it comes to what are our finances. But we still have to at least know the basics, because if I outsource everything to him, well, how do I know what's going on with our money? How do I know that this is really what we made? And so that's the inspiration for this week's podcast. So what I really wanted to do is give you the formula that I use to price our services here at Hair Loft. I think that it should work for everybody. You can review your numbers and see, but having a challenge of not knowing how to price or not knowing the behind the scenes of what should we even charge needs a solution. And that solution is going to be our service pricing formula. Most of the time, when we open a new business, typically salons, you kind of look around the neighborhood, you go, well, they charge too little. And then you look at the other guy and you go, well, they charge too much. I'm going to pick something in the middle. And, okay, that's fine. That at least positions you in the market. But most salons are not profitable. And so if you're looking at examples of places that are unprofitable and you're going, well, I want to be like them, that's probably not the best plan for your business. All right, so let's get into our service pricing formula. Now, in the show notes on this podcast, there is a link that you can follow that will take you back to a blog post on our website, ffsaloneducation.com, and you can download this service pricing formula. Because again, I know that from an audio perspective, we're going to walk through it. You can come back to this episode for reference, but you may not get it 100% right now while you're, in your car or doing your workout or just listening to this while you're processing your color. Okay, so the first step for us to talk about how should we price our services is to first find out, what does your business cost? Okay? Now, when we think about this, I'm talking about the cost of your operations. I'm going to separate your retail component, and we're going to think of that as a business within a business. But looking at, your total cost of operations, what does it cost to operate your business? Now for this, I'm going to use the example of $500,000. I don't know if that's more than you. It's actually less than what it costs us at Hair Loft. We have multi-locations. But for this example, we're going to use $500,000. Okay, so $500,000. My next question to you, how much do you want to profit? Now, here's a big one. Most people think, well, I'll profit whatever's left over at the end of the day. And what I'm saying here is, with the service pricing formula, what if you could build in however much that you wanted to profit at the end of the year, and you knew what it was going to be because you had a formula for it. And I want to point out, profit is what's left after everybody, including the owner, has been paid what their payroll is and all expenses have been paid. Okay, so how much profit do you want to generate? And to be honest, you can make this number whatever you want the number to be. It's totally up to you. I simply put it up at 10%. So I'm saying that I want $50,000 in this model left at the end of the year for profit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take line 1 and add line 2 to it. So $500,000 is what our business costs. We want to have $50,000 in profit at the end of the year. And so now our annual service goal is $550,000. Pretty easy so far. Now, how big is your team? How many service providers do you have? And when I say service providers, I'm talking about people that are revenue generating. So we're talking about stylists right now. Maybe you have a spa or other services. I'm really focused on just hair at the moment. So how many revenue producing team members do you have? Not proteges, not reservationists, not managers, just how many service providers do you have? I wanted to try and use some easy math. So we're going to say that we have 10 service providers on our team. Step 5. What is your team productivity time? Okay, so if we look at those 10 members, all right, again, I want to keep this as easy as possible. So I'm going to say that those 10 stylists that are on my team, they all work full time. So they are all doing 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. I'm going to give them 2 weeks off, vacation and holidays and things. Okay, so looking at those 10 stylists working 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, they total are going to have 20,000 hours of productivity time that they are available. Now here's the thing. I don't really believe that anybody is 100% booked all the time. Maybe some people are completely booked some of the time. I just don't think that everybody is always booked all of the time. We have no-shows, cancellations. We ourselves have sick days. And so instead of us trying to bank on 100%, we're going to change our productivity time to 80%. Okay, so instead of us using the figure of 20,000 hours, we're going to use the figure of 16,000 hours. That's our team operating at an 80% capacity. So I said that for the year, we had to make $550,000 to cover our costs and the profit that we want. Our team has 16,000 hours available at an 80% capacity. So if I take 550,000 divided by 16,000, what I get is $34.38 an hour. That's what each team member that is revenue producing needs to generate per hour for me to get to where I want to be. If I divide 34.38 by 60, that will give me what our service price per minute is going to be, which in this example comes out to 57 cents. And from there, I can just simply look at service times to be able to expand or contract what the price is going to be. So let's say in this model, if I had a haircut, for a haircut I book 45 minutes, looking at what I need to generate per minute of 57 cents per minute times 45 minutes, I come out to $25.78. And so maybe what I would do is I would just round that up and make my haircut price $30, which is very reasonable if you have a team operating like this with these costs. I hope that makes sense. If you have any question at all, email me, again, ben@thehairloftltd.com. But this is the formula essentially that we just used to revamp our hair loft menu. We just went through this in October. So it's been 4 months. And when we looked at where we were and where we wanted to be, luckily our services weren't that far off. So we didn't have to make too many major changes. And that made us pretty happy, because you never want to make a huge change. The one big change that we made was that we bundled all of our toning services with our blonding services so that they were no longer a la carte. And so previously, like for a new stylist, our partial highlight was 95, and then their toner, we call it a shine treatment, I believe was 40. But because it was a la carte, some people would get a little disappointed that their real service price was $135, and they would maybe elect to not get the toner. So we felt like that was a challenge, so we just bundled it together and we just made it one price, included the toner and the shine treatment with the partial highlight and all highlights. And so instead of it being 95 plus 40, it was just 135. So with the formula, a couple of things, fine print that I want to go over. When we look at that, what does your business cost? We're focusing on services. So do not include your retail costs. Whatever you're spending on retail inventory, that goes to help support retail sales. So again, if you're able to hit those numbers based off service, all of your take home will be an additional profit center for you and not included in this model. When it comes to how much profit do you want to generate, again, it's totally up to you. I just simply used 50,000 because in this example that was 10% of the operating costs, but we could have made it 100,000. You can make it whatever you want. It's what you want, and again, it's after all expenses and all payroll, including the owner, has been paid out. Again, the service providers, we are looking at revenue producing staff, those that are directly providing services, not reservations teams or assistants, or maybe you have a sanitation or cleaners that come in. Like we're not talking about those. Some things to watch. Okay, so now you've got your formula. You're going to go out there and you're going to work your formula. When it comes to your business costs, your costs are flexible, right? And they can increase and they can decrease. If you take on a new program, maybe you add a new marketing program to your salon, that might increase your costs, which then may increase what you need to be generating. You could also find cheaper solutions. So maybe you have a music subscription service that is $50 a month, and you're able to find one that has all the licensing and fees and everything that you need for $25 a month. There you go. You could change that. As you hire or as you fire, or people leave your business, maybe you're not firing people. We don't want to fire anybody. But as your team increases or decreases, that will also then change what your service price per minute is, because you now have less available hours. Something to watch with your services. How long are your services? If you change service timing, service pricing per minute does too. For example, 45-minute haircut should be costing less than the 60-minute haircut. Right? It's just basic math. If we said that in this model again that it was 57 cents per minute, if I have a 45-minute haircut, I'm doing this on the fly right now. If I have a 45-minute haircut, that means that haircut should cost, we said it came out to just over $25, so maybe I round it up to 30. If I have a 60-minute haircut, that's going to come out to just over $34, so maybe I make that $35. Again, the more time that you spend on a service, the more that service should cost. And last thing to watch is how productive are you? This model works by operating at 80% capacity. Again, I'm leaving a buffer. I'm leaving room for no-shows. That's probably also part of why I don't feel as scared when we have a no-show. Sick days don't bother me. People need to take extra time off, whatever. We're trying to shoot for 80% capacity. If you are operating below that, the tendency is going to be to cut profit first, right? If I can only operate at 60%, well, there goes that $50,000. Like, that's out. Really, the answer should be that if you're operating below that capacity, to cut costs, not profit. If you don't have that many people coming in, looking at your beverage bar, you shouldn't be needing to order as much coffee. You shouldn't be going through your color or your wash house and your back bar as often. So you really then at that point can watch your costs, because again, those costs are going to determine the major part of of the formula in terms of what you need to generate. So I hope this was helpful. I think it was great. Like I said, we use this to do our menu at Hair Loft. It's been fantastic so far. And having this whole year go with a whole new menu, whole new formula for everybody. Looking at the first 2 weeks, both of our locations are up above where they were last January. So 2018 is off to a great start for us. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. Again, I would love your feedback. There are some nuances in terms of how to implement this, and I would love to discuss that with you. That's Ben at thehairloftltd.com. I know, like I said, numbers and being a number head and listening to audio are probably not necessarily the best format, but I hope that it helped. Please subscribe to this podcast so that we can continue to reach more stylists and more salon owners. And until the next episode, please continue to live your successful lifestyle and go after those dreams and build that business that you are dreaming about.